Yeah.
Go to a restaurant and find out how many times it spikes. There's sugar in everything. There's bad fats in everything. Although restaurants may tend to use more olive oil than processed food companies because they're cooking, right there in front of you.
Yeah. And another thing sort of in this world of there's a lot of complexity here. There's the biological complexity of the phenomena we're talking about, but there's also basic research, clinical research, epidemiology, all different types of studies that different types of scientists conduct. They all have their different strengths and weaknesses. One of the things that I want to ask you guys about, I actually asked it a little bit before, but I want to come back to it, is you have people debating, experts debating about seed oils. Some people say, well, the seed oils are clearly pro-inflammatory because we know all of this biochemistry that's been worked out, all the stuff that you guys were talking to us about, and the story fits very beautifully in many ways, in my opinion, and in certain people's opinions. But then other people will say, they're usually more clinically oriented people, they'll say, great, that's all great, the basic biology sounds good in theory, but we don't see our randomized control trials clearly showing that seed oil consumption causes an increase in all of our favorite inflammatory markers. How do you guys think about those elements
So,
of the
so
literature here?
I'll address it, and then Ganesh can address it. But some of these trials I've read, well, we did 10 weeks of increasing obesity diet for a patient and 10 weeks for a normal diet. Well, and then we looked at plasma levels of omega-6 and omega-3. And okay, is 10 weeks a lifetime? No. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't think this is glacial stuff. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
It takes decades, right? So decades of exposure may cause these risks. So I think some of these studies that are randomized control, you can't do it long enough to
Yep.
see the effects. That's number one. Number two, I think we didn't talk about some other things that are happening, and we have no explanation for it. Why do we see an increase in colon cancer under the age of 40? There's a
Hmm.
substantial increase in the last 10 to 20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. And why
What's that
why
all
why in
about?
younger people? That is strange
Right.
at
So
first
what's
blush.
what has changed?
Yeah.
The only thing that has changed is really, quite frankly, diets and maybe levels of exercise and so forth. But the children today have been exposed to more of these PUFAs, these polyunsaturated fatty acid omega-6 varieties than I was, as a
Yeah.
child growing up. And so there's a big difference, and we haven't explained it yet clinically. No one has, and we need to figure it out. But we need to, I think it's the default is we should assume that it's the diet and prove it's not,
Yeah.
as opposed to saying, oh, the diet's probably safe. Let's look for some
Yep.
other
Yep.
cause,
And I think that's
because it's
super
something we need
important.
to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think both things you just said are super important. So we shouldn't assume by default that these things are good unless proven otherwise, because they're so brand new. Or we don't have we don't have a long history with these things except after we started making them at an industrial scale. But Tim, something you said there I think is very important, which is like I'm speaking from my perspective here, so I'm not going to speak for
Right.
anyone else. So just for everyone listening.